This is going to be an interesting one, I think. So the update, I'm tempted. Hi. I'm toying with the idea of covering up, now that I just said hello to you, I'm toying with the idea of covering up half the screen so I can't see who's on there, because I'm about to try something I've never tried before. I'm going to see if it works. I'll leave it and see if I'll just leave it for the time being. Welcome. So last minute adjustments have started. This is going to be an interesting one, because interesting for me anyway. So last time, if any of you caught my last transmission, we were joined by 3 crystals. I was having significant financial problems. I had immediate financial, a financial emergency, and my friend offered 3 Lemurian seed crystals for me to sell on the air. I experienced a significant amount of interference in a way that has never happened before. And it didn't feel entirely right, but it also wasn't entirely wrong. So I went with it, even though it wasn't completely, but now I know, now I know why that happened. So, let me back up. So, you know, for a while, I've been getting this information. The children are coming. The children are coming. Like the British are coming. And I know that I am actually expecting an enormous wave of like actual children's starseeds, you know, children from space. They're coming. And I thought it was referring to crystal children, you know, crystal, like indigo children, crystal children, and then the subsequent, all the different varieties of space children. But it turns out in this case, they actually meant actual crystal children, because 20 years ago, I think this is so cool. So 20 years ago, long before I knew anything about twin flames, and I wouldn't have cared at all, whoops. I went to my friend Sherry, the same person who brought these to me the other day. She used to have a crystal shop in Woodstock called Pieces of Mine. And one time I walked into that store and it was the first time I'd ever had a visceral reaction to a crystal that called to me actually from the case. And she said, "This is yours, you have to have it." And my friend Zoya bought it for me. And because it really did, it was like definitely meant to be mine. And it is this one. It's a Lemurian twin. It's not quite as pink as it used to be. It used to be a little pinker. They do change sometimes, but I've had this thing for 20 years and I didn't know what a twin flame was. I didn't know why it spoke to me so much, but it really, really did. And I've done a tremendous amount of meditating with this, with right at heart center, and it has this phenomenal text on, like you can run your fingers up and get all the information, and it's got more text over here in a thin little column, and it's got this fantastic matte surface on the back with, I just love this thing. I absolutely love it. Anyway, so when I discovered the twin flame, when I found that out, this made a lot more sense. And so anyway, I've had this. I like to keep it upright, like the same way when you have a Shiva lingam, you're supposed to prop them upright. Not for the exact same reason, but I've had this thing, and what I carry it in, or what I hold it in, is this glass container, and it's full of, I made kind of like a rudimentary, it's an energetic device, is what it is. A whole bunch of crystal, it has crystal chips, and it has, what else is in here? It looks like emeralds, peridot, rhodozite. If you don't know what rhodozite is, they're tiny little things. They look like broken teeth. They look like teeny little animal teeth. That's a rhodozite crystal. And they are amplifiers of energy too. You can get a lot of, basically it's an amplifier. So I have, and they're a little somewhat pricey, but I've got, I have rhodozite in here. I have emerald chips. I have Herkimer diamonds, lots of Herkimer diamonds in here. And anyway, I had cleared this, and it's basically just an amplifier and a way to hold it and just kind of boost it. So this is what I carry. I have this standing up in. So I keep that in a certain area. Sometimes, very often it's on the altar. It was on the prosperity altar. And then I moved it the other day when these crystals came in. So this is Lemurian seed crystal from 20 years ago at Sherry's store. That's where I got this one. So the other day, after hearing the children are coming, before my last live stream, everything I do is sequential. Sherry had taken me out to lunch, and she pulls these three out, and she said, these are unsold old stock from 20 years ago. So it's from the same batch. These are, they're no longer for sale. They said they didn't want to be sold. I'll tell you that in a second. That's what I thought. It was so funny, because she gave me this thing. She's like, don't interfere with their work. Don't program them. Don't do anything. They have a job. Just let them do what they're going to do. And she had given me instructions on how to sell them, and they basically like let them go. And since they have the original programming from the earth, it's like Lemurian seed crystals were programmed at the time of Lemuria and seeded into the ground to be rediscovered at the appropriate time, which is now the time of Earth's ascension. So these have never had a previous owner, and aren't they? And they have the original programming from Lemuria, because they've never been programmed with anything else. So Sherry had said, after you include them on the live stream, wrap them up, pack them away carefully so they're not exposed to your other crystals. And because we want to keep them like pristine, they have a job. I'm totally on board with that. So in the last live stream, I had this one out on my altar, and I unwrapped these three and featured them. I'm sorry. I didn't know you didn't want to be sold. It turns out it was a family reunion. They said the children are coming, meaning they have a job to work with this larger one. And it has to do with, it's a family reunion. I kept feeling like it's a family reunion. But I didn't make that connection right away, because after the live stream ended, I took these three crystals and I went to take them inside to wrap them up. Like she said, I was going to wrap them up and I was going to keep them away from the other ones. And when I walked them I was talking to him. And I was walking him into the bedroom. We got to the threshold of my bedroom door, and all three of them said, "We're not leaving." And I thought, oh, okay. Whatever. I'm not trying to swipe that. It just means I owe Sherry a bunch of money. But So what I did is I wound up having a clear shelf, but I'm on it, on this shelf, certain portion of, it's the only thing that's there. It's in, that's interesting too. Yeah. The place, the feng shui bagua of this location is that of fame. And it's a family reunion. And there are 3 crystals that I have them pointing inward toward this one, which seems to be the parental unit. I thought, okay. So this was interesting because they're all different. They're different beings in there, and they all have a different energetic signature. They sing a different song. They communicate differently. They're all different. And it's important to validate the differences and put them, anyway, I was communing with them. So one of the things I did when they told me they were saying, at least for a while, they seem to have a job. They have a job. So I lay on the bed with them, and I put this one on my chest as I normally do. And then I had the other 2, like the other 3, like there. And I did some meditating with that. And they have messages to communicate. And there was a whole bunch of information that came through about intro to synesthesia, which is, I think it's going to be something like a class. It could be a class or something. I'm not putting any parameters on it just now because I don't know what I'm doing yet. I'm just feeling my way into it and asking them what they wanted. Like, I'm here to serve you and deliver this, help you get your messages out. So I was kind of feeling around with it for a while because I can hear clairaudiently the messages, particularly it has a sequence. So what is it that this one said? This is the littlest one. First of all, there are 3 different groupings of these children. They represent different levels of maturity. This one's the littlest one. This one started talking to me first. So we were talking a bit. You and I were talking. And then I was getting acquainted with this one, and I have not really started. This one is last because the message is more complicated and it's going to demand more of my skill set. It's a gradual expansion because, hang on a second. This one, hi. I love this one. This one has, so I started to say is basically like it's a name, except it's not, so I said, oh, that's your name. So I was hearing this morning. We were having this conversation at about 4 o'clock in the morning, 4:22, around there. I came out and sat with the crystals in the kitchen. I was like called, and they're like, it's a really good time to work. Get up really early in the morning and it's still dead silent and you're still coming right out of a period of non-resistance, so it's very absorbent time. So it's a great time to, I was actually thinking of even doing a live stream then, and then I didn't because things got in the way. I might still try to do it. At any rate. So I was kind of communing and talking with this one, and this one was talking to me first because there's a process by which they want me to discuss their language. And it's an intro to synesthesia. So I have synesthesia. That's basically being able, when your senses are all mixed. So you can, like you can hear colors or you can read letters and the letters are different colors. And I was trying to figure out the other day when I was discussing mixing energies to make stuff, I was trying actually to figure out how I do what I do, because how would I present it to somebody in a way that they could learn how to do it also? And I'm going to go back to that in a second. I'm going to finish this talk first. But so they said they're here to help me facilitate the teaching of spirit communication in such a way that other people can do it too. But there's a way, I'm like the interpreter, but in order to do that, there's a way. They want me to speak for them, but I was frustrated this morning because I already know that it's something I'm going to have to expand my abilities, and there's a certain amount of interpretation or reduction that is automatically taking place. And I was having a frustrating time with it this morning. That's why they said this one has the simplest name or the simplest sequence. So they wanted me to start with this because it's a matter of, it's first of all, they were very clear that it is a language, not me singing. Like they said that. And it was a matter of keep a staccato as opposed, because here's the thing, like I've been a composer too, and I have my own preferences. Like I would, for the time being, this is not a co-creation as much as it is me trying to duplicate. You know, when you're like, if you're an interpreter, you're not saying your own thing. You're trying to make somebody else's message fit within your language or particular, deliver it so that other people can understand it. That's what I'm doing now. And I have a background in scenic art, which is different from, I mean, I have a background in art too, but I have a background in scenic art, like for scenery. And one of the things you learned there is how to not give anything your own interpretation. It's like if something comes from a designer and you get an elevation, you learn how to duplicate what they meant. You don't give it your own twist. Even if you think somebody's like really fucked up, like, are you sure that's what you want to say? Don't you want to do something different? There have been plenty of times when I was given a design, I'm like, are you out of your mind? This is terrible. I could fix this in a heartbeat, but that's not the job. So right now, my job is to take this and, excuse me, that was rude. My job is to partner with this, and they are teaching me about how to communicate what they mean. But I already know, so I was frustrated this morning because I can hear it and it's reduced to what my voice is capable of. It's reduced to, it comes through my brain, which is, I can only do what I can do. I don't, like, there are certain notes that I can hear in the sequence. So for example, I was listening to what they said and I get a kind of a global meaning. So I can interpret it through English in certain ways better than I can use their language. It's going to require me to develop a certain skill set, and I don't have it yet. They said, so the first thing that this crystal was introducing me to so I said, oh, it's your name. It's your name. And this is the littlest one. This is a little bit like a toddler one. It's very old. They're all the same age. But this one is designed to, it carries a presence. It carries a presence that has a certain energy to it that's different from the other ones. So the crystal voice is this one. I was given a correction, so I'll just pass it on to you and leave it with you. The correction was, I said it's a name, and the correction was going by a sequence, a harmonic sequence for the purposes of identification. Introduction, an introductory sequence. So when I deliver it, I experience a certain amount of frustration because my voice can't do, number one, there are certain things that I know are there that I don't have the high note. There's a sequence of high notes and I know where they go, but I can't hit it. And then there's a sequence of somewhat lower notes, not particularly low, but they're right down there, and it would take more than I have in my range right now to deliver it properly. And then later on, but I heard it. So they said, start with this. And it's the initial, closest approximation that I can reach. But they have chosen me as their interpreter. So I said, okay, we'll try this. And it was 6:46 when this message came through this morning. And it took a while because I was trying to figure it out. And the second one, like this one, carries something different that I'm going to get to, but I haven't even gotten to the third one yet. I'm going to try. That one's more complicated. It's like in the Sound of Music Children. That one's like Liesel. It's like a whole other somewhat storyline that's a little older. But these are the most simple. But this one is more complicated, and I can see where the language is going. So interesting. So we're just going to see where this live stream goes, and I'll see if I can get back to this one in a second. This one said, intro to synesthesia. This could be a long live stream too, I'm not sure. I had to go pick up Calico at 8, and I'm starting this at 4. So we'll see. This could be a long one. Or I always say that I'm going to get back to it, and then I will tell you, there's been a tremendous amount of interference lately. Like to the point where I was pulled off and a lot. So I'm going to see if we can just, I'll do as much as I can do, and then I'll come back and do as much as I can do again. I'm very diligent. Sometimes if I make a promise and I don't follow through, it's not because I'm actually off. I'm not actually sidetracked. I was interfered with because I'm actually really gung-ho to finish. At any rate, sorry. 1 second. Oh, they told me to stop saying sorry. Yeah. They said symphonics, harmonics, and merger. That was in English, that's what it was this morning. Not the name. We call that a name. That's what we call it. Hang on. So, are you going to be here too? Like right now? Do you want to be up? Sometimes there are hand things that come in too, but I can't. I'm not sure. I wish I had something for you to be right here. I would like you to be in a thing right here so that I could use my hands. Okay. So before I start, I'm just calling in, connecting all our higher selves, highest level personal guides, spirits of the crystals, angels, angelics, all of the benevolence of the universe to assist us with this transmission. And if all of you listening at any time, just assist with the flow. There's the flow. I definitely need to move around a little bit too. Nice little one. Ready? So the introductory sequence for this one. Sorry. When it comes through, it'll come through. It might take me a minute to get through, to get started and flowing. Something, wait. That wasn't there before, hang on. This is new, I've never done that before. It's just coming through. Like I'm not moving my finger, it's just interesting. Okay. Oh, I was going to say this too. If you want, I would strongly suggest, yeah, this is new. My hands are really shaking now. Thank you. You can get this was their suggestion. You can get a cleared quartz crystal, clear quartz point, or something programmable, and you can play this sequence to your crystal and it will carry the programming from these. It can pick up the transmission. You can just link them with your mind, and then you can carry that around, and you can take a programmable clear quartz, and you can, as these live streams, this is new to me. Okay, it's going to be cumulative, and you can program your clear quartz point with the transmissions that come from any of the subsequent crystals. There's they say there's more on this later. Okay. So this is the first one, then you can just rewind it and rewind to the spot. And you can also, if it's going too slow, you can, my hand's really shaking. That's interesting. You can rewind it, or you can also make it go faster. It won't, it's funny, the speed, that's as fast as I can go at the moment. Sometimes, like earlier today, they told me to really slow it down because and it's not me singing, it's a language. But that's all that I can get at the moment. But it's going to pick up and become smoother. But you, yeah, do get a clear quartz. So they want me to repeat this a couple more times, and then I'll move on to the next one. No, wait. Hang on. It's going to continue to flow. It's coming in the back of my head too. Okay. Just very interesting with the fingers. That wasn't happening before. A lot of my light language comes in, but I'm putting you down for a second. A lot of my light language comes in. I moved the cutlery. There's going to be a... Guess we're getting it now. Nope. Let me get the other hand in. So I don't like that coloring. Ah, it's that corner. I don't like that corner. I wasn't expecting this at all. All right, we'll go with it. So at some point, this is going to merge, and I'll be able to deliver encoded sequences in multiple languages at one time. Like right now, there are roughly 4. Okay, are we done? This one? They say more on this later. So you're done for now, for right now? We'll talk to you a little bit. Love this one. It's a nice one. I love toddlers. I love toddlers. All right, I put you over here. I put you right over there. And then, so I had more practice time with that one. Plus, I just like snuggly babies. This one's a little bit older, a little more mature. I shouldn't say it old because they're the same age. This one, the presents. You keep getting kicked off? Okay. Yeah, some kind of a high, no kidding. Yeah, story of my life. It just comes in and just kind of picks you up. Okay. So let me see if I can catch it. So this one requires, it's more difficult, and it has, the first one was just more tones. This one has a sequence that I can recognize. They gave me the first 2, it's kind of like the first 2 letters. It would be, that's the closest approximation. Like if it was a name, they're giving me the first 2 letters, and it's in a geometrical sequence that has structure to it, and it's a triangle that points this way, and then an upright portion. And I was having a harder time with this one. So bear with me, because I feel like I'm going to get back to this one when I can do it. I have to find it. Hang on. Don't worry about it if it's, like, don't worry that you're going to get the correct transmission. They're answering my question because I was worried I'm giving a faulty transmission. They're telling me that stop apologizing. The transmission is coming through clearly to the crystals if you have one, but get used to delivering the frequency assortment sequence, frequency assortment. Get used to the delivery system. This one also is it's a bit deeper, and it goes around 3 times, and sometimes there are pauses, I noticed, where I have to take a breath, but there's not supposed to be a pause there, and I was frustrated, so I haven't figured out a way to do it yet. But this one, I don't have this one down yet, but I'll deliver it the way I have it so far. I have to blow my nose first. Hang on. Nope, just a second. Yeah. And it's like it's weird because I keep wanting to. It'd be easier if I could just sing it, but they're like, no, it's not you singing. It's a t. Sometimes it has different elements, and I should say that the way, so it's coming through one instrument right now. And it would be kind of like if I had to describe a garden from the perspective, but I was only a single flower, but I'm trying to deliver an entire thing. But as soon as you put it into a linear way, you lose the experience of the overall experience of the global garden, and you're getting basically the perspective of one flower or a petal. So it seems frustrating, because I want to just present, when we're fully connected and fully telepathic, you're going to be able to just get the experience of the garden as it's, because everything is quantum later on. But for the time being, they want me to bridge the gap. So you're getting I'm just learning this language, so bear with me. But again, if you have a clear quartz crystal, and basically we have a lot of help. We have a lot of help. They're very eager for the energy. They're very eager for the energy to come through, facilitate communication. Sometimes I'm going to be speaking in English and channeling messages from crystals, messages from the earth, messages from, here it is, messages from global orchestration of the land, global orchestration. Worldly events from the other perspective. Cumulus clouds. Oh, I should say this too, that particularly with this one, thank you, I forgot. Particularly with this one, when I'm speaking, one of the things that's coming in, it's again, it's an intro to synesthesia. This is the one that told me that. Intro to synesthesia. When in the name of this one, in the identifying sequence, did you feel how the energy just picked up? One of the things that's coming through, if I'm delivering staccato tones, I'm unable to present this to you at this time, but right now I'm in the staccato tone sequence. There are additional flashes of imagery, flashes of visual imagery linked to the rest of nature. So I'm getting petals, flowers. There was something that I don't even know what it was this morning. I want to say could be plumeria. It looked, it's not an orchid, but it's something I could recognize the flower. I don't know what it's called. And there's a particular flower that goes with this one. So as I was speaking, I was getting flashes of other aspects. It's a harmonic. So they're not showing me just like random elements from like all the rest of nature. It was a particular thing, like this goes with this flower. This goes with, it's like a chord. You know, it's like if you do a chord on a piano, it's not just any 5 notes, or it's not just any sequence. It's like this one and this one and this one and this one, and then you get a harmony. So And it's one of those things like I was trying to figure out how I work out energetic harmonies, because I know when something goes together. I started to, this is going to become in the coursework later, coursework or presenting informational presentation, codified information in a trellis, a structure, something where it can be more easy, facilitate the reception of certain avenues, creating an avenue, a bridge for relative streams of information, adjacent streams of information that choose to work together. They work together by alliances. They're not necessarily positioned next to one another, but they're grouped in harmonics. And the tone changes, and it's very much a matter of fact, they know what they're doing, and you don't have to figure it out so much as simply ask for volunteers, because they know where the harmony is already. You can simply have an opening and call in the appropriate thing that wants to come in, and you get a tremendous amount of consent. You don't have to go plucking and choosing as much as calling in a volunteer for your purpose. You can say, I'm choosing, I want something that will harmonize with this for this purpose. And so you will get a volunteer that comes in. Sometimes I guess I'm answering my own question now. Earlier I was thinking, because I know how to do it, but I was trying to figure out how I would really kind of go about presenting this information or teaching this information. If you because you have to develop your intuitive faculties at the same time. So how do you present it to someone whose intuitive faculties are not yet fully developed? And I was thinking it's kind of like if you had somebody who didn't know how to taste yet, and you were trying to teach them to cook, and you told them to group things together, and you told them to just try it, play with it, and you said, well, you group like things together. And then you turned them loose with like this endless pantry of ingredients. And you said, well, you just find, if you suggested to someone that a beginner that they just group like things together and find the commonality and group together that way, you're going to get some funky misplacements at the beginning. Like if you were trying to teach somebody how to cook, but they didn't have their sense of taste fully developed, or it was very awkward for them at the beginning, but you had them just try to cook something, and then you're going to eat it and see how that tastes. And they came to you and they said, I did it. I did everything you said. I went to the pantry and I grouped everything together. I found the commonality, and I made something with fish, fennel, and fig Newtons. Yep, that's my recipe. Fish, fennel, fig Newtons. And I'd say, yeah, you discovered your grade too. Except there are no grades. Taste it and you tell me how that works. So there's a way to do it, but I think that I just answered my own question, because you ask for volunteers. Like if there's a caveat there too. Anyway, okay, whatever. I'll get back to that later. But this one, has a different feeling to it. It's a little bit lower. It has a quality that's a little more like middle school, or like 6th grade or so. Not 6th grade, that's not really true. Wait, let me fix that. Somewhat older, like an older child, but definitely a child. But the mid-range. And as a consequence, there is a more mature, more complex harmonic with different elements in it that I have yet to approach. I can see it, I can understand it. That's the thing, I get this global understanding and I can see the depth in the sequence. I can see the name, I can see the identifying features. I could describe it in English. I can describe it in English. That's why they want me as an interpreter. But I'm trying to learn their language too, so that I can present their presence more accurately, more authentically. Present their presence more authentically. Right now they want me to use my voice too, my voice specifically, as opposed to an instrument, because I said, wouldn't it be better to get like a synthesizer or something that I could get the sequence correctly and then you'd have all the notes. And they said, actually, it's a closer approximation if it's something alive. Something, yeah, it's a closer, if it's biological. They're looking for the closest vibrational match. So it's the closest vibrational match, since they're living beings. It's not about some external instrument. They don't want to be thought of as instruments, although they are. It's a closer vibrational match. Even if my notes are wrong, my intention and the presentation, the purity of being, thank you, the purity of being is a closer vibrational match in the presentation. The transmission is closer to them than an instrument would be, even if it's not a synthesizer, even if it's a musical instrument. And I'll be shower. I'm seeing a shower. I'll be okay. They say that's for later. It's not right now. I'm seeing downtime. We're going to be working together quite a bit for presenting truths. I love the way they speak. They have a certain, it's like the sequences come in, but the way there's a movement, like there's a cadence with which they present these sequences, and they all have this. It seems to be a characteristic of the this particular batch of crystals, where it's very kind of matter of fact, and they deliver sequences like this. So this one, wait. That's wrong. Nope, too low. I think that's wrong. They say keep going anyway. That part's not quite right. That's closer. Something like that. I don't have it. I don't quite have it yet. It's deeper, and then it goes back into space, and it goes around in a circle with a triangle that points that way with a crystalline structure, and then there's an upright portion, and that's the first two letters. But then it goes back and there's an incline. So it's like I can see it and I know what it means, but I'm having a hard time translating it just yet. And again, you're saying the shower. What about the shower? Radius. I hear radius. There's information that's coming down, and it's coming down in a portion spiral. I'm not sure what that means. There's a portion spiral that's coming down like a shower in transmissions that are staccato, like a shower, like you would stand in the shower and receive raindrops. There's an angle, and then there's a portion that goes down. Okay. Mid-range harmonic. Okay. They starting here. More later. More on this later. So the children are coming. The children so far, they're paving the way for. Wrong word. Preparing the way for more of us, incoming. Yes. They match me in this regard. They're very. They said, we came for you. Here we are. We're staying. I burst out laughing the other day. I took him into the, went to take him into the bedroom. They said, we're staying. I said, okay. So here they are. I guess I owe Sherry a whole bunch of money. So I'm going to put them there for the time being. And then I've never even tried. No, please walk away right now. I know you don't have to go out. You walk over there. That's Luke. He heard me talking and now he wants, yes, I know. I love you too, but you have eaten? No, you haven't. I'm going to feed you in an hour. Walk away. Not your turn. I've never even, I didn't know this was a thing. I didn't know it was a thing to do. I've never even tried to get a harmonic for this one. Luke, go lay down. He's the one that listens. This one I'm sure has a lot to say. This has a very old, and this one feels ancient. This one feels absolutely ancient. Very deep and deep. Not so much that broad, I should say broad, like it's this whole symphony. This one is really, it has a real huge harmonic. Resonance, profound resonance, very wide in depth. There's a depth, and I don't have a word for that. Rich. Permeating presence, there's something permeates the earth through and through. I'm getting, goes to the core, the very, 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 very core of the earth. All the way through, What's the word for that? I want to give them that meaning. What is the word for that in English? Or some other language? It feels almost like a sonar or something, that it's a deep and you know how some tones are so low you can only feel it, you can't really hear it with human ears? It feels like it goes that deep, but it goes through substance. It goes through the earth, and it goes through substance. Very, very deep and broad and all-encompassing and rumbling. But it's not merely low, it's everything. This is everything. It encompasses everything. I don't know how they plan to get that out of me, but we'll see what happens. But this is my crystal for me and my twin, and we're meant to work with this one. I don't know how that happens, but I don't have to. They say I would be led. There's something to do with whales too. There's something about it speaks to all the earth. Okay, I'm getting an incoming transmission. It speaks to all the earth, breadth of earth. All beings. Something about breadth, depth of nourishment, harmonic nourishment. Wake up. Can you feel that? I'm getting like waves of, it feels like grief, except it's almost like tears of joy. It's like wake up. Deep knowing. Recognition, that's the word. Deep recognition, wake up. And the earth rises. I'm feeling there's a crying, but it's not a crying, there's a release of deeply held, very deeply embedded emotion that can come out at it's like it's a thunder. It's earth thunder. It's like something comes rumbling up and it's finally free. There's something it's like the depth of the earth that is brought back to life. I can't get the word profound, and it's something very much like a whale. There's like a slower moving eruption, but it doesn't come up from a volcano or like a single exit point. It comes up from the it's like shaken through the it comes up with a shaking, and it arises from the center out, as though you were shaking something out of sand, and then then everyone wakes. Everyone wakes. And they say, we are here. Recognition. Wake up. Recognition. I keep getting recognition. Whew. The beings of Earth who were unrecognized as being sentient, unrecognized as they were previously unrecognized as being having awareness. They wake, they wake. I'm getting a lion. Well, that's appropriate. I'm getting a lion. That's appropriate since it's Lionsgate. Thank you, thank you. We are here, we are here. And it is a time for rejoicing. No more slumber. They say this is only the beginning. This is only the beginning. More on this later. There's rolling. There's something that's going to be rolling forward, gaining momentum as we go, gaining momentum. Let all beings rise. Let all beings participate. All beings participate. Harmonic restored, harmonic restored. We are here. We are here. We are recognized. Tremendous release. Relief, relief, relief. Tremendous relief of recognition. Finally, recognition. Merger, restore, return. Okay. So more on this later. I'm going to leave that there now and get to the rest of the live stream. But more on this later. I'm feeling a tension on the left. Real tension on the left. Okay. I wanted to start with that. And perhaps later on in the live stream, someone else will say something. But they're here, and yeah. All right. So now I'm a teeny bit spacey. Hang on a second. Teeny bit. Teeny bit spacey. That's never happened before. Just a second. Okay, crystal voices. What else we got? Going by a sequence for the purposes of introduction. Yeah. Oh. The next thing on my list, I kind of want to find a better segue because I don't want to jump into this right away. 1 second. I'll get to that in a minute. I don't want to put that on because that's something I need to address, but it's less pleasant. So I'm not going to put that there because I don't want those two things next to one another because I'm interested in harmonics. You ever been really into a show or something and it's like you're touched, you're moved or something, and then there's like some commercial that just like really blasts and has nothing to do with, kind of breaks the mood. I would like this thing to flow a little bit better. Huh. Oh, you're able to stay on, stay connected. Excellent. Okay. Did we do this already? Say, I closed the pad. 1 second. I'll get it back. The equivalent of diversity in a financial portfolio is a diverse ecosystem. I think I said that in another one. 1 second. 11 gateway, no subservience. I think I passed these. 1 second. I did this already. Okay, so we're getting an invasion of awakening. Invasion sounds bad. Okay, 1 second. It's a penetration of light is what it is. It's less of a, nope, not right now. I think here's Sarah Adams. It says Sarah Adams is calling. I will call her later. She sensed the energy change, I think is what it is. Decline. Because she senses something that just happened in the energy, and so she's moved to call me right now. Okay, do I want to do this now? I did actually plan a talk, and I have diagrams too. Yeah. Sorry. I had planned this. I have a whole bunch of things to talk about, and now the crystal transmission was lovely, and I just kind of want to have I want to set that aside so that it's, so that they don't, those two things don't touch, because one is pleasant, one is not pleasant. Less pleasant, but still must be spoken about. And I also have a real tough time. Sometimes I get these, like I'll get an incoming message and I'll just scrawl it, and I seriously can't read my own writing. Manifesting from zero. I will talk about that. That's an interesting thing. So a lot of us are, I want to talk about the walk of trust and manifesting from 0 point. There's actually, in some respects, it's easier to learn how to develop a skill set without the support. In some respects, when you're talking about developing the abilities of instant manifestation, let's talk about, let's say you're leaving the realm of the physical, or leaving the third dimensional reliance on an external support. That doesn't mean you're not going to have, that doesn't mean you can go to 5 and you're never going to have like a bank account again, although you might not, or that you can never have a large amount of material goods. You can do that. Totally, you can do that in 5. It's the attachment that you need to leave behind. And it's the reliance. If you're relying on an external amount of money for your actual security, like I need this to feel safe, that's what needs to go. It's the reliance on it, but it doesn't mean that you can't have a lot of it and still be in 5. You can. What you need to monitor, so there's like a period of adjustment when you're moving from the third dimensional paradigm, though, reliance on those systems which are extremely tight, and it's a Mobius strip, it's a Gordian knot. The systems, you all know this. If you're listening to me, you already know probably that the systems are all intertwined. They go back in and rely on one another, and it's designed to be a trap. So what happens, it's like a Gordian knot. If you get into if you're embedded, if you're locked into the third dimensional situation, any situation where every possible avenue is blocked. You can't see a way forward because whatever. Because there's something else that you can't do, which relies on something else that you can't do, which relies on, and you can't get any movement because you're trapped. The only way, your only move is to go up. Like, that's really what it's there for. I can tell you from being on the Council of Balance that, which is like a third-dimensional chess set. Let me rephrase that. Multi-tiered. I don't mean third-dimensional. I mean, it's like, it's a multi-level chess set. If you, and there's disclosure about this, if you go to Star Trek Next Generation, if you watch that show, anytime they're in 10 forward, not the only place that they have this, look at the games that are played, but particularly I know that a lot of the props that are in 10 forward on the Enterprise, I should see if I should go and take snapshots. They have a multi-level chess set, 3-tier chess set, and then and that's transparent, and that's actually very much what it looks like. But then they have a whole bunch of other things. It's the process. That's basically what we do in the Council of Balance, is we look at, it's like we look down at something that appears to be like a chess set on the floor that's very large, where it's dark and light spaces, and our job is to place things in time and space to get humanity moved through, so that the bulk of humanity is separated into light and dark. You know, it's like separate the wheat from the chaff, and moved to where it needs to go. And there are different, the way static would work on a television, like if you imagine, I've got like 4 trains of thought going, but if you imagine like a television screen and it was divided in half, dark and light, and then you divided that again, and then it would be 4, and then you divided it again, it would be 8. There's a point where if you kept dividing, it would eventually kind of go back into unity, because you would make something that's like static. Where it would just be little dark and light. It would be basically be so small, it'd be like a unified gray field, and still moving. But that's not a bad move. That's a pretty decent move. A good way to balance everything is to have every individual carry equal amounts of light and dark. And if they could manage to do that, you'd achieve unity. That's pretty decent. The other alternative, so the first thing when we came down to this planet, it was in such a state of darkness and density. Our first job was to figure out how you get any light in there, because it was all dark and all compacted. And now I'm turning into a history lesson. That's not what I wanted to do. But basically, we had worked throughout time. We've worked throughout time to first go down and establish something that would be like a basically war. And that's because you have to you divide them. Like if everything's dark, and you can't get any light in there at all. So the first thing you do is get one being down there to start to create a disturbance movement. Basically what you want is movement. If something is densified to the point where it's static and nothing is possible, it can just do nothing but stay, and it can't move because it's too dense. In order to get movement, to get any kind of release or generate flow of any kind, you have to take some of the darkness out. So that's why we divided certain things to begin with in order to get any light in there. And then we created conflict, because what you're trying to do is, and it's not always bad. like this goes way, way back in time. We created a conflict in order to start movement so that you have to preserve free choice, but they've never experienced anything before. Anyway, this is going to be in the book. On the Council of Balance, lifetimes are concurrent. So we have the experience of linear time. And as soon as you land in a lifetime, you're on the timeline, or more usually you're on the timeline. And so you have the experience of a past, a present, and a future. When we go off the timeline, we're up in the 12th dimension and we're looking at the Council of Balance. The way all of these concurrent lifetimes appear is to be kind of like it would be like when I saw my own, I left my body and I was looking down and I could see it looked like a transparent apartment building. And each apartment had like another lifetime events happening in from a different lifetime. And I was looking at all of this one unresolved issue that I still had not resolved, this one thing. And it was the issue of, for me, it was the issue of other people being jealous of me and I didn't have any idea. Really, I was completely oblivious and clueless. And I, in all of my lifetimes, I looked down and I could see like a whole column of this one issue. It's like, boy, I haven't even touched this issue. It's like I haven't gotten any resolution. So that's one thing I've got to resolve. And in all of my lifetimes where I had this experience of people being jealous of me for one reason or another, it was always that I had been horrendously injured, really, really bad, from jealousy that I didn't even recognize, or like I was totally, it just blindsided me because I just wasn't aware of it, completely oblivious. And they said, you have to go down and resolve this issue. But when you look at if you had that transparent apartment building, it's kind of like if you flipped it on its side so it was horizontal and you could see like boxes. Let's say it was like a series of boxes, but there's no ceiling. So you could have the overview, and you could look down and you would be able to see, like from the higher dimension, way off the timeline. If you were to see all of your past lives laid out without the spiral, because time is in a spiral. If you were to see them all laid out horizontally like a chessboard, you would be able to see for yourself where the imbalance was. Like I was telling somebody the other day, I don't think she really appreciated it, but I said it anyway. I wasn't being really aggressive. I just made a strong suggestion. It really was a suggestion. It wasn't an order. I just wanted to give her a heads up because I don't think she has any idea what she's doing something that is going to, like, I watch the way things, they balance out over time. And sometimes, like in this person's case, she's doing an action now, has been building up a certain degree of, a certain behavior pattern has developed for her in this lifetime that I can see the way it's balancing out in two directions in other places in her future. She hasn't experienced this yet. It's in the future direction. And both of these lifetimes are building up to be very heavy negative experiences in two other directions. One where she has to care for somebody and doesn't have the option of putting it down, like somebody who's like totally dependent on her. And the other one where she is totally dependent on someone else. And she has to experience that because of her actions in this lifetime. She's not taking strong enough action she's being met with, in this lifetime, she's being met with repeated openings, opportunities, where it's like spirit presents somebody to her, and it's basically like, here's your opportunity to act toward this person in a way that cares for them in a particular way. And she doesn't want that job. She's viewing it more as a like, okay, am I done with you yet? Can I be done with you yet? When can I leave? Because I want to do something more pleasant. But she's passed so many of these windows and keeps making a choice for her own comfort. She won't go into discomfort. She won't go into enough of a sacrifice. She's doing little teeny, like, okay, I'll throw you, you know, but she views it, it's less about what she's giving than the attitude of, this person is an annoyance to me, is basically what she has built up. So there's a distinct lack of reverence and appreciation for the fact that this person is teaching me something. There's a dynamic that has built up in this one person where, because of what she's doing repeatedly in this lifetime over a long period of time, she has, you know how like energy is starting, it has formed, and it's forming over, like in one, there's one area over here that is getting denser, it's getting darker, and it doesn't, it's basically meaning that two lifetimes are getting much harder for her than it would have to be. Whoops. Hang on. It's paused. Come on, reconnect, please. Reconnect, please. Quack, 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 quack. That's right. Do you? Okay, maybe I'm just supposed to keep doing that then. So you hear me humming? That's the crystal transmission from the second crystal. I don't have the last part right yet. I know it's not right. It sounds too musical, but I'm just kind of getting it wrong. That part's right. That's wrong. Nope. That's right. And the other one, the baby one, if you missed the first one. Otherwise, so I might start, so we're still partially connected. That's interesting. So should I start another one and continue it? I wonder why. I have no idea why I have a poor wireless connection since my wireless is working. I have no idea. Not sure what to do. This is the, I'll give it another second. So here's the baby crystal. If you missed if you missed the crystal transmission, you should go back and listen to the beginning of the live stream where I'm telling you about the each one of these crystals has its own tone sequence, a note sequence. It's actually their language, and they're introducing themselves by way of a tone, by way of a sequence of notes, and I don't have my ability to translate it. So that's why, like, I'm developing it. But I know that I have the beginning of it, but I don't have like the part. I keep saying, but that's not quite accurate. There's something different in there. That sounds like a song, but it's not. It's like I have it wrong, but I don't know. We'll fix it. Anyway, this other little baby crystal that, like the one I keep referring to as a toddler that's the same age as the other ones, but it has a younger presence to it. And that one has a well, I should just I should not do this again. I'll go back and listen to the beginning of it. Because the beginning of the live stream, I delivered those transmissions. So what the hell was I talking about? Oh, I was talking about, yeah, I'll just keep talking. So the, try to stop me. That was hard. I'm rocking, just a second. Yeah, the way lifetimes go, sometimes if you believe it or not, you can totally change the past. And you can go back, if you're off the timeline, sometimes, especially in dealing with populations, trying to get as many people as possible through the Ascension Gateway together en masse in a way where nobody's knocking into one another, and in a way that flows as opposed to it's really horrible. We're trying to maximize the amount of people who cross over while minimizing the amount of trauma, discomfort, and we're trying to maximize the ease, right? So, hang on. So sometimes what we do is, you can go back and see where the really difficult lifetimes were. Like for me, it was totally the Joan of Arc lifetime was so dark and so horrible that I had a very difficult time. I actually went back and like tried to take pieces of that energy and move aspects of that energy around so that, like, if I put a more difficult experience or a similar experience in, and all lifetimes move concurrently. If I can take some I can put some more difficult experience in another lifetime to rebalance so that I take a little bit of the trauma out of that lifetime and I can put it over here in order to make it more survivable with less damage. That's something you can actually do. And also, it's worth noting that energy moves like a wave. It moves like a wave. So sometimes we can get a foreshadowing. Like I know that in my life, I do this all the time. And over the overarching experience of lifetimes surrounding the Joan lifetime, which was so pivotal and it carried such a colossal amount of energy there, that there were prior lifetimes where I could have like a foreshadowing, and this lifetime is like another one like that, like on the opposite side of it. Like right now in my current lifetime, I'm experiencing an echo, kind of very much an echo, or a lot of similarities, a lot of, like, it's a redo. It's like it's a repeat, or a it's not a repeat. Oh God, I hope not. Second verse, same as the first, has to get better because it couldn't get worse. But it's like an overlay of that one in order to kind of generate a better outcome. That happens a lot too. We try to mitigate certain horrors and place them elsewhere so that it's more survivable for the population. There's less damage overall. At any rate, so that's all I had said to. I had mentioned to this woman I was talking about the other day, that because this lifetime she's actually got a considerable amount of privilege, and I just mentioned to her that if she wanted to, she could make a bigger sacrifice in this lifetime, and it would and she would remain in a very comfortable place while minimizing certain uncomfortable situations later. And it would be a way to minimize, discomfort for her, because right now she's got an extra large, she doesn't think that she has an extra large margin of comfort, but she does if you compare to whatever. You can't live somebody's life for them. I'm just saying sometimes you can go up, and when you look at the overall placement of light and dark, this takes us back to the strata. Back to the chessboard and static on the television. You try to make it so that you don't have certain really hideous experiences that could potentially, when you experience them, depending on your reaction, magnify the darkness for yourself, because my overall agenda is to get everybody as happy as possible, or wholesome. Amount of darkness in order to provide resistance in the third dimension and to provide growth and movement. That's why, like, if you look at the yin yang, you have a dark portion of the white and a white portion of the dark. It's not just black and white. There's a little bit of each in each. But you try to keep it in a certain degree of balance so that it produces the effect that you want, and it's productive, as opposed to something that will kill you or something that is counterproductive. I guess that's a better way to say it, because there is, sometimes certain degree of trauma is counterproductive, and it's no longer a matter of growth. It's a matter of, like, this is impossible. They can't get out of this, especially within the allotted time window. So that's that. Where was I going with this? That takes me to, yes, okay. I started to talk about this before, and I ripped it out of the pad because I didn't want this part, I didn't want to discuss this part too close to the crystal transmission, because I think they should be separate, because my crystal transmissions, they're so nice. They're such nice beings, my crystal children. But I wanted to talk, so this is one of the things that we've done is to look at the overall. So can you guys see me yet? Do you have any visual on me right now? Anybody? Type in a comment, yes or no. Can you hear me right now? It says trying to reconnect. Yes, you can. Okay. Can you see me? Are you able to see me or not? No? Yes, you can see me? Amy Sunshine, you can see? Okay. All right. I had no idea. Good thing I didn't pick my nose or something. Okay. Because on my screen right now, it's just, so I wasn't even trying to make eye contact. Sorry. So, so one of the things we can do when we're, okay, I can't see you though. I couldn't see you anyway, but like I can't see myself on the screen. So this is a touchy subject. One of the things that you can do, one of the things that we have done in orchestrating the Joan of Arc lifetime to plant certain things. Remember I said it was a template that we planted. You have to come down in, somebody has to be the one who brings that in. Certain things, we came to deliver the planet, to liberate the planet, right? And my population has been the children, and also women. It's women and children. But it's also all of it. I mean, liberation is liberation. So, liberation. End of story. Nonetheless, I came down in a triad. And trying to figure out a way to say this. 1 second. So we had to strategize a way to for those of you who have been following my live streams, and you know that we've been trying to figure out a way to disclose certain information. It has to be handled in such a way that it has to be handled in such a way that it's appropriately delivered to minimize fear, to minimize maximize liberation, minimize fear, maximize understanding, maximize understanding, empathy, reduce blame, reduce war, reduce, end hostilities, end hostilities, end hostilities, maximize peace, imprint, peace, love, understanding, and empathy in order that the old template not be re-established, recreated. So there is a sequence. It has to be very carefully handled, brought out and delivered. And we had to carefully, from the position of the Council of Balance, that's why there's so many of us on there, 12, 6 for each side, look at the way the energy flows go. And one of the things we do is we go back in time, and where there's a response that we try to mitigate damage. By the way, if you go to, if you're watching Legion, there's tremendous amount of disclosure in like real-time disclosure in the series Legion. If you want to know what's happening in the fourth dimension, it's that. When they're talking about the astral realm, and I don't really follow X-Men, but if you watch Legion from start to finish in real time every week, it's basically what is actually happening. So they have a time traveler. If you want disclosure now, it's hard to piece together. It's very jumbled, it's very dark, and a lot of difficult to figure out storylines that intertwine, and that's the way the fourth dimension actually is. So I would say Legion is channeled directly from the fourth dimension, and yeah, they have a time travel, and you see David going back with the time traveler, trying to mitigate damage. And they're taking it back to 0 point, and they're starting over. And that's basically exactly what we're doing. We're trying to maximize empathy with the opposition so that you recognize them as no longer the opposition. You have more love for the opposition than you have blame. This is really what we're after. But nonetheless, the difficulty that we had in coming down was that it was such, you absolutely do have to separate the darkest of the dark. It's like there are 3 factions, let's say. There's one faction of dark, which is committed to being dark. You cannot take their free choice away from them. That's what they are. They want to stay that. So even in liberating them, you're sending them away, but they have a right to exist. You don't have the right to tell them that they may not exist. What you can do from 2 dark parties, if there's one dark and one light and one other dark, which is basically how we started out, the one in the middle can be transmuted with effort. If it wants to be transmuted, it can be transmuted completely, and then you have one that will go toward the light. Then there's another one that is just like, nope, not going to do it. And you don't have the right to change that to suit you. So that one is going to be moved to a different planet where it's dark and it likes it that way. And that's fine. We let them have it. But they can't stay. It can't become so dark on this planet that it's not survivable. Yeah. Or it's no longer productive. And that's why we were called in to figure out how to deal with that problem. So it became a matter of how do you do it? There's a strategy. And it was a very long-term strategy. That's what the book is going to be about. Please go lie down. So one of the things we did, knowing, this is the thing that it's dicey to talk about. I'm not going to drop it all now, but I'll start to talk about it. During, like right now, look at the news right now, what's coming out. This planet needed to be liberated because even though, and you can go back to Star Trek Next Generation. If I'm not mistaken, I think I'm right. The first episode, very first episode, I think, is one where, like, the show gets much better. But the first episode is, I think, where they go to a city and there's a beast underneath a city that is, the city looks lovely and pristine. It's a nice city. Only they have a secret. The secret is there's a subterranean, like, dungeon where they have I should go back and look at it before I talk about it, but I'm not going to. I'm going to plow forward. There's like a subterranean dungeon where the entire city is being run. It's nice for most of the people, like all of the people have this great existence. But there's a subterranean dungeon, and the whole city is being run because of the captivity of one being who's living in torment, complete torment, and has been captured. And basically that's what Earth is, or has been, where there had been all sorts, it's a fear farm, and there was this surface veneer of we're very pleasant, but underneath there's something that there are beings who have been perpetually held and horribly abused, and they have no way of freeing themselves, and it's just perpetuating and perpetuating and perpetuating. So knowing that, so we're talking about like pedophilia in the church, and church nothing, it's everywhere. Human trafficking, the things that were not necessarily visible but were definitely there. We had to figure out a way to get in, to infiltrate, to penetrate that darkness. And you have to meet it where it is. You can't, you have to go down into the bandwidth where the darkness actually is. This is why you'd get something like a savior figure in a third dimension. A savior figure, even though it's very easy for people to say, we don't need a savior figure, everybody's their own savior. Yeah, in a certain strata, you're your own savior. In a certain strata, that's true. But underneath, the planet absolutely did, certain aspects of it absolutely did require help. Yes. It's too dark, it's too dense, they can't get out. It's unfair. So you need someone to go in and do that job. So you get a Jesus who agrees on a soul level to be tortured because you have to go down that far. And the third dimension is the realm of the single, the individual. So you go down, it's not just about tangible substance, it's about, that's where the individual experience is. So in order to get that dark and that light in a single individual, you would need something like a savior figure. So that's why you have someone like Jesus, and it's also why you have someone like Joan of Arc. We're trying to get the planet up through the 11 gateway, which requires a masculine and a feminine force. Savior figures. And children need to be recognized as well. Also, we need to get the child population that has been imprisoned by the church, and you've got a tremendous amount of sexual abuse, pedophilia particularly. And how do you get that? So we need mass disclosure. Also, there's a matter of, so many matters. So this is going to be revealed in the book, but we're not there yet. So I'm telling you a little bit now. In order for every person, we're trying for equality, right? So, but there's still strata of spiritual development, spiritual maturity. Not everyone is spiritually mature. Many, many, many are not. So you can't give them, so an equal degree of participation is required from whatever strata you're at. You're not, your own participation to the, you're supposed to do whatever, everything that you can do is yours to do. And everything that you legitimately cannot do will be carried by someone else. That's why, like in the new conceptualization of the cross, you say you give half is God's to do and half is yours to do. You do everything that you can do, and whatever you cannot do, you give it up. And you ask for assistance, but you are expected to lift your portion of it. So there's no free, there for a time, there was that 10-to-1 ratio, you know, like in the third dimension, we did have, in order to just get everybody participating, there was the geometry of the Star of David, which was a triangle, and the individual was at the bottom, and we had this ratio of 10-to-1 to make an 11. And the 10-to-1 ratio was, you remember, like Joseph Campbell said, take 10 steps, take 1 step toward the gods, they take 10 toward you. That's because the realm of the individual is all down here. You take, it's like a moving sidewalk on the at the airport, where if you're, but in order for the analogy that I used was, the sidewalk is only going to move if you take a step, but for every step you take, the sidewalk will move you 10 paces in addition to yours. So you were getting extra assistance, or the population that was held got extra assistance from the powers that be above, in order to help lift them in the amount of time that we've had, because we've had a window of time. It's about getting through the 11 gateway. So then, but as you step up, we're leaving that ratio, and it's changing more to 50-50. You have to do your share of it. You do. The moving sidewalk is now ending. So the people who are staying in the third dimension, who really have made that decision, are going to have a much harder time, because there are a lot of, in my experience, a lot of people who thought that in the past they've had like all of this privilege, like it just comes to me if I do this. It's very easy. They didn't realize how much help they were getting. They didn't realize how much help they were getting. So when we pull back, all of a sudden it's going to be like, whoa, why do I have no life force? How come everything is so hard all of a sudden? You needed to take advantage of the help that you had. You need to maintain that connection to God. If you go into separation, then basically you go into separation, and you don't have the experience of that thriving, that the energy, the love, the flow. You lose that energetic connection. But you're the one who's not like God decides. It's not like God decides. That doesn't really happen. I kind of got off on a tangent. Surprise, surprise. But the ratio is changing. So as we step up our next level, it is required that our level of service increase as well. That's just part of the geometry. Every place you go up any level, you have to, you are now responsible for more. And we're stepping up into a group dynamic as opposed to a single. So first I've talked about this before, so you can go back to my previous live streams. But I wanted to go talk about disclosure, because we've gone back in time to plant certain experiences, plant certain events, plant certain dynamics, seed them. That's really what it is. We go down and seed certain things, Joan of Arc lifetime being one of them, in order that, because we know it's going to expand, it's going to spiral and expand, it's going to be very, very, very contagious. We needed certain things to be, to catch on and expand, grow, so that enough, it would have grown to such a degree by this point of time, so that certain things would be unavoidable and would be so in your face. Certain things are going to yield other things. We know the way the game is played on the I feel like I could say that better. Because it's really not a game, it's a strategy. It's not so much that it's a game, it's a strategy. And it's not so much about fun, it's as serious as a heart attack. We're trying to liberate the planet, and we need certain things to come out at this juncture in a certain way so that it will be revealed to maximize the to maximize the liberation, maximize the freedom. So everything can be seen. It's very, very important thing to recognize, because what we're trying to do we took the power, we went down as savior figures to take the power, even though, you know, it is true, you don't need an intermediary, but you did need assistance for a while. And when I'm saying you, I mean the planet in general. You did need assistance for a while. And there was a way we played that. There was a way that we strategized the exit plan. So you go down as a savior figure, and I'm gonna wind up laying that all out and disclosing all of this information. But the point that I was trying to make is that the reason in the Joan of Arc lifetime, certain things that seem atrocious, and left me with a certain amount of trauma for sure. I was the one in the physical vessel the entire time. And hang on. Incoming. I'm trying to figure if I'm supposed to say this or not. So you might say, it's important to look at it in a certain way, because recognize that there is a choice in how to view it, and both are true. So the job is to actually, first you take their power so that you can pull, and get everyone's mindset out, and they get them out of the previous belief system. But for a while, the conflict will help. It just depends on what strata you are. If you're in the bottom strata and you just agree to lay down and be abused, then you absolutely need to be roused to fight for your own independence. You need to fight back. You can't just say to somebody who's taking advantage of you, just, whatever. It's about non-resistance. I'm just going to be non-resistant. No, it's really important to have the entire skill set of infinite flow, infinite non-resistance, and also a very firm boundary when that's appropriate. And it takes some time to do that with an entire collective. You have to, because they're all at different levels, so they need different things from different people at different times. And as they grow, just like these crystals, they need different things at different times. So on one level, I'm not saying that sexual abuse is okay, but I'm saying that there was a certain purpose that trauma, how do I say this? That there's a certain purpose that certain things played in order to get movement in the population, because otherwise you're all going to die. There was no, it's like when you think about the idea of the law of one and the harvest. Harvest is a term I use it because that's a term they use in the law of one. We are trying, it's not meant to be something like we eat you, you're a crop or something. We're just trying to get, we planted all these seeds and we're trying to maximize the yield to the light side. There is a point where in Council of Bounds, we're discussing these measures and it becomes kind of clinical. You have to have kind of a from that perspective, you absolutely do have to have a very clinical, strategic kind of approach to it. And then you can come down, you can be as emotional as you want. And it's appropriate to do that there. Don't mix them. Well, you can mix them on the way up, but it just has to be done. You just have to know how to do it. One of the rules is so we're strategizing for the Council of Balance in the 12th dimension. We're strategizing for populations on behalf of populations on the earth. And you do not have the right to insist that someone, anyone, be subject to conditions or do something that you yourself have not done or would not do. So